Life is a beautiful journey, a canvas of colors painted with trust, love, connection, and experiences. But what happens when the colors begin to fade? Not because life lost its charm, but because some people painted your world with illusions. What do you do when the smiles around you are hollow, when the cheers are just noise, and when the hands you held were only reaching to take, not give? You see, one of the hardest truths to digest is this. Not everyone who sits at your table is there to celebrate you. Some are there to watch you starve. Some clap the loudest not because they care, but because they want to be seen. In a world full of masks, the most powerful thing you can do is learn to see beyond the surface. So today, let's uncover the truth. Let's shine a light on the shadows. Let's talk about the 5 things fake people always do and how you can spot them early before they become poison in the garden of your peace. They disappear when you need them the most. There is something heartbreakingly silent about absence, especially the kind of absence that comes from those you thought would stay. It's one thing to lose people to distance and quite another to lose them to truth. Fake people have a pattern. They show up only when the spotlight is warm, but vanish when the storm begins. When you are standing in the middle of your darkest hour, it's not just the pain that breaks you. It's the empty space beside you, the void where a shoulder should have been, the silence where a voice of encouragement should have echoed. That's when you learn who's real and who's rehearsed. Fake people thrive in comfort zones. They walk beside you on straight roads but take the nearest exit when life takes a turn. They make promises in peace but leave when chaos tests them. You'll never find them in your hospital room, in your battles, or in your prayers. They have mastered the art of disappearing, of becoming conveniently unreachable when your soul aches the most. They'll call you family in public, but when your hands tremble with the weight of pain, they're nowhere near. It's not that they forgot, it's that they never cared enough to remember. Their love is conditional, their loyalty seasonal, and their friendship transactional. You begin to notice their absence not just physically but emotionally. They don't check in. They don't ask how you're doing. They don't stay up to listen to your midnight breakdowns. They just vanish. What's worse is the illusion they create before disappearing. They give you words that taste like honey only to make their silence sting like salt. They know how to say exactly what you want to hear, just to buy time until they need an escape route. And when they disappear, they leave no explanation, only disappointment. But here's the painful beauty in their absence. It teaches you presence. It teaches you to be there for yourself, to hold your own hand when no one else does, to become the kind of person you hoped they would be for you. Sometimes their absence is the gift you didn't want but absolutely needed. You realize you don't need crowds when you have clarity. You don't need people who only stay for your sunrises but never your midnights. You need hearts that remain, eyes that don't look away when you cry, and souls that don't shrink from your scars. True friends come with candles in your darkest hour. Fake people come with excuses. And over time, you begin to notice the difference, because of how loud their laughter is in your joy, but how silent their presence is in your pain. These disappearances are not random, they are patterns. Patterns of convenience, not commitment. Patterns of temporary companionship, not permanent connection. It's in your weakest moments that their truth is revealed, not through what they say, but through where they aren't. They will tell you, I was just busy. But a person who truly cares makes time, not excuses. They will say, you should have told me, when in reality, you shouldn't have needed to. Real ones just know. They feel. They show up without being asked. You begin to understand that silence is not always peaceful. Sometimes it screams betrayal. And every time they disappear, they leave behind a version of you that's more cautious, more aware, and far less trusting than before. But don't let their absence turn you cold. Let it turn you wise. Let it sharpen your instincts, not harden your heart. Let it teach you how to value presence so deeply that you never offer your loyalty cheaply again. You are not weak because you feel the sting of someone's absence. You are strong because you still stand. Even when the people you counted on were only numbers, you rise anyway. You shine anyway. Because your strength was never dependent on their loyalty. And as life moves forward, you stop asking why they left and start being thankful that they did. Because their disappearance opened the door to your discovery. The discovery of who's real. The discovery of who deserves a seat at your table. The discovery of your own resilience. They talk about others behind their backs and do the same to you. One of the clearest signs that someone wears a mask is how easily they remove it when the person they're talking about isn't in the room. There is a sharp, invisible knife in their words used not to defend but to dissect others. And with each slice of gossip, they reveal more about themselves than the person they speak of. Fake people often come disguised as concerned souls. They wrap their malice in phrases like, "I'm just telling you so you're aware," or "don't take it the wrong way." But truthfully, their intent is never to protect, it is to poison. Their language is sugar on the outside, venom within. They pretend to confide in you, but what they're really doing is recruiting you into their circle of manipulation. If you sit with them long enough, you'll start to feel contaminated, not because of who you are, but because of what you've allowed yourself to absorb. And here's the harshest truth. If they gossip to you, they gossip about you. Always. The moment you're out of earshot, your name becomes the next story. Your insecurities become their amusement. Your dreams become their doubts to others. They know no boundary between truth and betrayal. Their loyalty is like shifting sand. Whoever is in front of them becomes their temporary ally, while everyone else becomes collateral damage in their narrative. They don't build bridges, they burn them while smiling sweetly at the flames. They operate on the currency of attention, and they know that drama is the cheapest way to earn it. They will never celebrate someone's success genuinely, but they will always exaggerate their failure. It makes them feel bigger in rooms they cannot own. And the saddest part is, they don't even realize the energy they create. Or maybe they do, and simply do not care. Either way, their need to talk about others is a mask for their own fears, their own insecurities, their own deeply buried self-hatred. But eventually, you start noticing the pattern. The excitement in their eyes when they begin a sentence with, "Did you hear about?" The way their voice lowers. Not out of care, but conspiracy. The smirk that follows someone else's downfall. It's all there if you choose to see it. And when they talk about someone you love, you feel a coldness crawl into your heart. You wonder, if they can twist this about them, what stories have they spun about me? And that question becomes your awakening. The most dangerous kind of betrayal is not the one that comes with knives, but the one that comes with whispers. The ones that alter how people see you before you ever enter the room. Fake people thrive on whispers because they fear confrontation but love control. And so you begin to step back not loudly, not angrily, but silently and firmly. You start choosing peace over proximity. You stop laughing at their gossip, stop feeding their fires. You become a wall they cannot climb, a mirror they cannot manipulate. Because maturity is understanding that silence doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. You don't need to expose them. Their words will do it for you. In time, people begin to see the pattern, the drama, the division, the dishonesty, and slowly their stage crumbles. Real souls don't destroy others with words. They protect, they uplift, they defend, even when the person isn't around to hear it. That's how you recognize the real from the rehearsed the ones who speak light, not darkness. And every time you hear someone tear another person down, ask yourself, what pain are they hiding? Because truly happy people don't harm others with their words. They don't need to. Their joy is rooted so deeply that it has no room for spite. So the next time someone brings gossip to your doorstep, remember, you are not a garbage bin for other people's bitterness. You are a gatekeeper of peace. And your silence, your distance, your refusal to participate, that is your power. They mirror you to manipulate, not to understand. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the ones who hurt you with fists or words. They are the ones who imitate your soul. They study your every expression, memorize your stories, and reflect back a version of yourself that you didn't even know they were crafting only to control you. Fake people are masters of mimicry. They don't show you who they are, they show you who you are, and then pretend to be that. They match your energy, your beliefs, your dreams, your fears. They wear your personality like a borrowed costume, just convincing enough to make you trust them. In the beginning, it feels magical. You think, wow, someone finally gets me. Every interest you share feels like fate. Every emotion you express seems to echo in their heart. But slowly, subtly, something starts to feel off. Like you're looking in a mirror that smiles when you smile, but never truly sees you. What they're doing isn't connection, it's calculation. They learn how to gain your trust by reflecting your values. They study your vulnerabilities so they can use them later. What seems like compatibility is actually choreography, a dance you didn't know you were being led through. And when you try to go deeper, you find a hollow space. You ask them about their dreams, and they quote yours. You speak about your pain, and they nod but. You feel no warmth, no shared emotion, because they are not there to feel with you. They are there to extract from you. They imitate your kindness so people will trust them. They imitate your pain so people will pity them. They imitate your strength so people will follow them. But none of it is real. They are collectors of personages today, someone else's tomorrow. You'll start to feel drained, not because of what they do directly, but because your soul senses the fraud. Your intuition begins to whisper warnings. You begin to notice inconsistencies, borrowed phrases, convenient shifts in behavior. It feels like watching someone rehearse a play where you are the script. At first, you might doubt yourself. You'll tell yourself, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe they just admire me. But admiration is sincere and supportive. This is a performance with a hidden agenda. A slow manipulation designed to pull you in, only to control how you see yourself through them. And the moment you stop being useful, the mask falls. The mirroring stops. They become cold, distant, or worse, turn your own traits against you. The very things they once praised become the things they criticize. Because their goal was never to love you. It was to use your identity to shape theirs. That's when the pain hits hardest, not because you lost someone real, but because you realized they were never who you thought they were. They didn't love you. They loved the image they crafted from you. And when they were done wearing it, they discarded it without remorse. But in that pain comes power. The power to recognize the signs early. The forced laugh, the scripted sympathy, the too good to be true understanding. You learn to see the difference between those who reflect your light and those who steal it to survive in their own shadows. True connection comes from authenticity. From people who may not understand every part of you but never pretend to. People who show you who they are even when it's messy, even when it's different. That's where trust is built, not in imitation, but in honesty. So when someone agrees with you too quickly, praises you too often, or shapes themselves around your every word, pause, watch, observe. Because genuine people grow alongside you. Fake ones morph into you until you can no longer recognize where you end and they begin. And once you've seen behind the mirror, you can never unsee it. You become wiser, quieter, more protective of your energy. You don't stop trusting, you just stop offering your truth to those who've only come to copy it. And in this new awareness, you find peace not because you stop loving people, but because you learn to love yourself enough not to let anyone else become a version of you for the sake of control. They use compliments as currency, but never as truth. Not all compliments are created from the heart. Some are forged in the hands of manipulation. Fake people understand the power of praise not as a gift, but as a tool. They don't compliment you to celebrate you. They do it to control how you see them. You've met them before, the ones who always know the right thing to say, the ones who flatter your strengths while secretly resenting them. They build you up with words, but never with action. Their praise is sweet, but empty, like wrapping paper with no gift inside. The compliments of fake people are not rooted in sincerity, they're strategically planted. They know exactly when to praise you, right before they ask for something, right after they've hurt you, or right in front of others to appear loyal. Their words are rehearsed, not real. At first it feels warm. Who doesn't want to be seen, to be appreciated? But soon you start to feel the hollowness. You begin to notice that their compliments are always exaggerated, too loud, too often, too timed, like applause played through a speaker, not hands clapping from the soul. You catch them complimenting everyone the same way, the same phrases, the same intensity. And you start to wonder how special is your praise if it's copy-pasted from person to person like a cheap performance. What's worse is how quickly that praise turns to poison. One moment they're telling you how amazing you are, and the next they're talking behind your back. They inflate your ego only to later deflate your self-worth. Their kindness is conditional, and their approval is a weapon. They compliment to confuse you, to make you second-guess your instincts, to keep you in a loop where you're constantly chasing their approval, believing it reflects your value. But true praise doesn't demand loyalty, it invites confidence. Real people compliment you when you least expect it, not when they need something from you. Real people say less but mean more. But fake people need their words to create a facade, to earn trust, to gain access to your emotions, and use them like currency. You'll find that their compliments often come with a shadow. They might say, "You're so strong," but only after watching you suffer. Or, "You're so talented," but only when they feel threatened. There's always an invisible string attached, some emotional transaction waiting to be collected. And when you no longer respond to their flattery, when you stop feeding their ego in return, they vanish. Or worse, they turn cold. Because for them, compliments are not a celebration of your light. They are a negotiation of power. It takes strength to separate real affirmation from manipulative flattery. It takes courage to stop needing approval from those who never saw your worth beyond how it benefited them. But once you do, you begin to hear compliments differently, not with your ears, but with your soul. You begin to cherish the quiet praises, the ones whispered by those who know your journey, not just your destination. You value the compliments that come without strings, without expectations, without hidden agendas, compliments that build you without owning you. Because the truth is, you are not a performance. You are not applause waiting to happen. You are not someone else's chance to look generous. You deserve praise that reflects your truth, not someone else's script. Let fake people drown in their honey-coated words. Let them speak without depth. You, however, learn to speak with integrity. You learn to recognize the difference between words that flatter and words that heal. And once you do, you never go back. Because once your soul learns the sound of sincerity, it can never again be fooled by noise disguised as praise. They play the victim when confronted. There's a strange shift that happens when you finally speak your truth. When you call someone out for the hurt they've caused. When you gather the courage to confront the silence, the betrayal, or the manipulation, you expect accountability. But with fake people, confrontation doesn't bring clarity. It brings performance. They don't respond with introspection or remorse. Instead, they put on a mask of sorrow and twist the truth so skillfully that you begin to question your own. Suddenly, you're not the one who was hurt, they are. They don't explain their actions, they escape them by becoming the victim. They shift the blame like sand slipping through fingers. They paint your honesty as cruelty, your boundaries as betrayal, your pain as an overreaction. And in doing so, they turn the spotlight away from their behavior and onto your reaction. You start to hear lines like, "I can't believe you think that of me," or "I've done so much for you and this is what I get." These aren't apologies. These are distractions. Smoke screens designed to distort the truth and trap you in guilt. They want you to feel bad for calling out their wrongs. They weaponize your empathy against you, knowing you have a heart soft enough to bend. They count on your kindness to silence you. They know how to cry without tears, apologize without change, and explain without responsibility. And if you don't fall for it, if you stand firm in your truth, they escalate. They gather sympathy from others. They tell one-sided stories where they're the wounded soul and you're the villain. They don't heal wounds, they harvest them for attention. They seek not justice, but justification. They don't want to be forgiven, they want to be pitied. Because pity keeps them protected. It shields them from reflection. It allows them to continue their cycle without consequence. The most painful part isn't that they lie to others. It's that they lie so well, they sometimes make you doubt yourself. You replay every conversation. You wonder if you were too harsh, too cold, too impatient. But deep down, a quiet voice reminds you you were just honest, and that voice deserves to be heard. Because truth, no matter how painful, is not cruelty. It is clarity. And people who love you, truly love you, will face that clarity even if it hurts. Fake people, however, cannot stand the mirror you hold up. So instead, they shatter it and call the pieces your fault. You learn through these confrontations that maturity is not about who's louder, it's about who takes responsibility. You see, silence can be dignity, but with fake people, it becomes survival. Because engaging with their victimhood only drains your spirit. You start to choose peace over proving your point. You start to walk away not because you're weak, but because you refuse to dance around their drama. You stop expecting them to change and start choosing to protect your energy. And in that decision, you reclaim your power. You understand that accountability is a form of loved one they are not capable of giving or receiving. But you are. And you will no longer shrink your truth to fit their comfort. Real people don't play the victim when they've hurt someone. They sit in their discomfort. They own their actions. They listen without defense and speak with humility. They don't escape into sympathy. They grow into accountability. And so, when you see someone twist your truth into their tragedy, let them, because the truth needs no audience. Your healing is not dependent on their apology. Your peace doesn't require their permission. You move forward not with bitterness, but with boundaries. Not with rage, but with resolve. Because when you stop giving fake people the power to play victim in your story, you start writing a new chapter on where your voice is not only heard, but honored. At the end of the day, step into awareness, walk away in strength. We live in a world that constantly demands connection, yet so often delivers confusion. A world where not every smile is sincere, not every hug is healing, and not every friend is a fortress. And in that world, it becomes vital, not just helpful, to recognize who's standing beside you with an open heart and who's hiding behind a borrowed face. Fake people don't always arrive with red flags. They arrive with flowers, with charm, with carefully chosen words that feel like home until they begin to burn. They wrap manipulation in kindness, coat their betrayal with charisma, and wear the language of loyalty like camouflage. But beneath that softness lies the sharp edge of selfishness, a need to control, not to care, a desire to be seen, not to truly see you. They gossip while pretending to protect. They imitate while pretending to admire. They flatter while preparing to abandon. And when the truth begins to surface, they twist it into tales of their own suffering, making themselves the victim in stories where they once held the blade. But the problem isn't that these people exist. The problem is when we don't spot them soon enough. When we ignore the discomfort in our gut. When we silence our own wisdom in the name of keeping peace. When we trade authenticity for acceptance. That is where the pain festers. You were not born to be fooled. You were not meant to bend for validation, to carry counterfeit connections, or to call emotional manipulation a friendship. You were born to discern, to protect your peace, to trust your intuition even when it whispers, even when it shakes. You have the right to walk away from anything that stains your spirit. You have the right to say, this doesn't feel like love, even if it's wrapped in affection. You have the right to outgrow people who shrink you with praise and cage you with charm. Because strength is not just standing tall, it's standing alone when your soul asks for it. It's choosing truth over comfort, silence over noise, distance over dysfunction. And it's in those brave choices that you begin to reclaim your space, your voice, and your light. Spotting fake people isn't about judgment, it's about survival. It's about honoring your energy, protecting your purpose, and guarding the doors of your life like they are sacred, because they are. So trust the unease, trust the hesitation, trust the moment you feel unseen in the presence of someone who claims to know you, because that moment That tiny fracture in the facade is your signal. It's your soul whispering, this is not your tribe. And once you learn to spot them early, you no longer fear them. You no longer try to fix them. You simply free yourself quietly, completely. And you walk toward people who reflect not your image, but your truth. Because your life is not a place for masks, it's a sanctuary for the real. And you, above all, deserve to be surrounded by those who don't just stay but see you, feel you, choose you with honesty, not illusion.